We have big news. We have exciting news for you. Tell them what it is, Serena.
We are super excited to announce that we are starting our first membership this January 2024.
Yay! Membership.
So we're excited to let you know that we will be hosting a monthly membership where when you join, you will be
With us live in a Zoom room once a month for a workshop like we just hosted. It's going to be a workshop like that, one topic each month, a different topic. You might even help us come up with the following month's topic from inside our membership. Super excited to meet you. It was so fun meeting a few of you in our inaugural workshop. So we're really looking forward to that.
And when you are a member, you will also be receiving a monthly newsletter where I'm going to be a little more intimate and I'll be sharing the things that are working and the things that aren't working for me.
Yeah, like taking a tool that you've learned from the podcast and how you're implementing it and how well that worked, or maybe if it didn't work. And then Amma can put in my 2 bits worth. We'll see how that goes. But a membership newsletter and a membership live Zoom room workshop starting in January 2024. Can sign up through our Patreon link in the show notes. Yeah.
Yes, everything will be in the show notes, and we can't wait to see you there, listeners.
We can't wait. Yay.
Hi, my name is Serena. I am a mother to a toddler and currently pregnant.
And hi, I'm Lisa, also known as the Singing Amma. Amma means grandmother in Icelandic. I am a mama and an Amma.
At the beginning of my first pregnancy, I felt like I was lacking my village, which is why we are here creating a village with you, in hopes that you won't feel as isolated as I did.
I also felt the lack of a village in my early parenting years way back when. And I come to our village with a background in early childhood education. I have been coaching parents along their parenting journeys and supporting them for over 35 years.
Amma, Lisa, and I invite you to grab your latte
Or your tea
and come sit around the proverbial fire with us each week.
when we come together to have a conversation where we'll be talking all things parenting, keeping it real, keeping it raw, right here with you. Hi, I'm Lisa here, the Singing Amma, to read to you today a column that I originally wrote and that was published in the Fishbowl magazine on Salt Spring Island, British Columbia, Canada. Today's topic of the column is, how do I get my child to do what he's asked when he's asked to do it? Familiar? Once I'm done reading, Mama Serena will join us, and together we'll have a look into the nice, deep details of this one. Dear Singing Amma, how do I get my 6-year-old to do what he's asked to do when he's asked? Signed, a hopeful mum. Dear hopeful one, you and every person you are in relationship with, in this case your child, have created a dance together. The dance of communication. The good news is that you can change your steps and create a new dance. Now, how to begin? Likely, this situation involves an entwined combination of 2 issues: listening and cooperation. So let's look at listening first. To encourage positive listening skills. Number 1, model the listening you would like to see. That means listening quietly and attentively. Whenever possible, quit multitasking Gain eye contact and give your undivided attention. One mama shared this telling tale. Mama, doing the dishes while listening to a child. Child, age 4. Mama, I want you to listen with the eyes in front of your head. She was very grateful, she said, when she shared that story at a parent group meeting, that she had taken the How to Talk So Kids Will Listen course with me the year before. It was a great example of modeling the listening you'd like to see. Number 2, gain a child's attention before speaking with a gentle touch. That can be a great family communication tool to implement by example for getting someone's attention. So just reach in gently, put your hand gently on their arm or their shoulder, and just wait until you have their attention. They can do that to you as well as a communication tool. Make eye contact or ask if you can tell them something. And if they say yes, you've got them so far. Only ask, though, if you're prepared for them to say no, not right now. And number 3, remember, the fewer the words, the better. Quote, whenever possible, use a sentence instead of a paragraph, a word instead of a sentence. Dr. Haim Ginott in the book Between Parent and Child. If we constantly talk at our children, they will learn early to tune us out. Number 4, observe your tone of voice. Are you nagging, sounding irritated, yelling? If so, your child will likely be responding or reacting to the emotion while the request gets lost in the fray. Number 5, take on this deceptively simple yet so hard to implement change. Say it once. As parents, we do get frustrated. See number 4 above. That was observing your own tone of voice. And we repeat ourselves. We repeat ourselves. We repeat ourselves. We repeat ourselves. That is our part of the dance. If they didn't respond the first time, repeat number 2, which was gain your child's attention before speaking, perhaps with a gentle touch. Practice number 3 diligently. The fewer words, the better. And continue to the best of your taxed parental abilities to be the change you would like to see. Thank you, Martin Luther King. And to encourage cooperation, creating daily routines can really help with cooperation. Children feel safe when their world is predictable. They feel empowered when they can be part of the family dynamic. If it's getting everyone out the door in the morning or into bed at the day's end, a routine that becomes habitual can be a fabulous tool. You could make a colorful chart in the bathroom, bedroom, or near the kids' coat hooks by the door. The child can draw a picture of the task, bath, brush teeth, toilet, story, or dress, breakfast, teeth, toilet, coat, boots, backpack, car. Yes, routines can be our friends, as long as we don't stick to them like robots. Every now and then, if somebody's feeling under the weather or has had an especially bad day, you know how it is for us as grown-ups. It's the same for our kids. We've got to have a little wiggle room. But for the most part, routines can help us feel safe and our world to feel predictable. Another great tool to use is a timer. Instead of saying, you've got 5 minutes, we've got to get out the door. Who wants to set the timer for 5 minutes? And when it goes off, we need to be walking towards the car or the bus stop together. That way, the timer is the one who inspires the action, not a nagging parent. Exciting to be here with you again and with all of you listeners, hoping that today's episode is going to be helpful in the cooperation element of your family dynamic. And what struck me when I was reading this column, it was a piece I didn't have time to, a room in my word count to write into the column. But that whole idea of how parents' voices, sometimes when our children are very young, our voices are like not really heard anymore. Our children just kind of blank us out. And often in my classes, I have said, do you know the Charlie Brown cartoons?
Mm-hmm.
You do? Okay. Because I know in my era, that's what we always watched at special occasions. They'd have a Charlie Brown special on. So good. If younger generations also know Charlie Brown, this is helpful. The teachers in Charlie Brown,
mm-hmm.
and the children are in the classroom and the teacher's going, wah, wah, wah. That's what our children hear.
Yeah.
When we ask them over and over or tell them over, it's time to go. Come on. I told you it's time to get out the door now. What are you doing? Why? We have to get out the door. Wah, wah, wah. That's all they're hearing. And that's sometimes a really good, playful reminder that just saying it over and over and over again is not that helpful.
Yeah. I'll say something to my daughter and she's in her zone playing her thing. And I'm like, Andrea. And she's okay, mommy. But I know she has no idea what I just said. She's just like, right? Okay, and mommy.
She's not even 2 yet. And she's totally got it down. She knows that if she gives you an okay, mommy, it may help gain a few more minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
Even though she's not doing that consciously, she is in her zone.
Yeah.
Really important what you just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, let's think about it like for us as the adult. If you, mom, are working on something that you're really excited about and somebody comes in the room, either a child or a partner comes in the room and just interrupts you and says, okay, it's time to go now. Like, how's that going to go down? Maybe you're reading a really good book. Maybe you're working on a project, something that's engrossing your attention, right? It doesn't go well for somebody to say, come on, it's time to go now. How many times do I have to tell you we need to get out the door? Like, can you feel the resistance come up in your adult body to that kind of intrusion, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like you said, the example when a mother's washing the dishes, she's in the zone. And then maybe your kid saying, come play with me or come look at this. Or that's something kids love. Look at this. Look. And you're like in your zone. But like the kid wanted her mommy to listen with her eyes in the front of her head.
Listen with the eyes in the front of your head. That is one of my favorite quotes from all of the parenting education I've offered. It was a year after she had taken the whole program with me. And this was a guest speaking opportunity that I had with this group of parents from a preschool. She says, I just got to share something about, giving our full attention to our children. It's just such a beautiful 4-year-old, from the mouths of babes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mama, I want you to listen with the eyes in your front of your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cute. And also the touch I mean, all of it was really great. And I'm getting stuck between the modeling and the touch. And I like that because even with your partner, when you're talking, and my husband, he just got home from work, he just wants to sit and be on his phone. And sometimes I want to talk, but touching and connecting and saying like,
Mhm.
I'm here with you, and then getting into that conversation or explaining
Mhm.
what you're asking of them, that really helps in a gentler way than saying, hello, are you listening to me? And or like to my daughter, Andrea, just
Mhm.
touching. And that
Mhm.
will help prevent you from getting to the point where you're changing your tone
Yeah,
and maybe becoming a little more aggressive or louder.
exactly. And I watched that touch. I learned it actually from my daughter and her husband. They did that with their boys, and it was such a beautiful, quiet way. Like it was just, and my grandsons would do it. They would come up, the younger one in particular, and just put his hand gently on my arm. And sometimes it took a few moments, and then I'd go, "Oh, hi, hi. Did you want to say something?" And it was just this beautiful, silent way. And if you're in a conversation, and this is so common, the kids are going, "Mama, mama, mama, mama," and they're interrupting. And
Mhm.
so we often will stop our conversation and say, "Wait until I'm done this sentence and this conversation, and then you can, pop into the conversation." But when we're having a conversation with another adult, how many times do those conversations run on and on and on and on?
Yeah.
And the child is maybe waiting or continually interrupting and trying to get edgewise in, right? So if we can teach them to come up and do that gentle touch, and we train ourselves to go, "Oh, hi."
Mhm.
It's not a verbal interruption into another conversation that I'm already having. It's just this beautiful way of interacting to
And
get
it
us.
and it's more loving. It
Mm,
helps ease that aggression
totally does.
so
It's
much.
such a gentle interaction. Yeah.
If you are trying to encourage them to cooperate with what you're asking of them, always saying please and thank you, I think is so important. And my daughter, she's not even 2, but she always says please and thank you. And I love it. And it's so sweet hearing her little voice say it. And it makes
Mm,
me wanna, it encourages my cooperation when she's asking something of me.
right.
Just because she says please and thank you, I'm just like, how can I say no? So that's really cute. And I love, we modeled that for her from the beginning before she can talk. My husband and I always please and thank you. And when she asks something, please say please. And now she does that. And she encourages my cooperation.
And one of the things I just want to interject here is that sometimes parents well meaning, focus on that word. And what I have heard, in the world around me is parents say please. If you want something, you say please. And they're asking in a not polite
Mm-hmm.
tone of voice. And so the child might then say, "Okay, can you get me that now, please?" In a not polite tone of voice. So
Yeah.
for me, yes, I will model. I'm supporting this the young person that I work with in my day job as private childcare, to ask politely right now. And so I will model that for him, and for younger ones, um, you know, when they're still learning how to ask appropriately. Um, he might come up to me and say, "Read me a story." And I'll say, "Oh, Amma, could you read me a story now, please?"
Yeah, that's how I do it.
So,
I
right. So
repeat it.
I will
Yep.
give him the words, you give her the words, and then he will say, "Oh, Amma, can you read me a story, please?"
Mm-hmm.
And if he says, "Oh, Amma, could you read me a story?" I actually prefer that to, can you read me a story now, please?
Mm-hmm. That's
Right?
very true. Yeah.
Tagging that little word on the end is not the end all and be all for me personally. It's more the tone and the way in which we're asking for something.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's very true.
Just as a little tweak on that please word, because some, like I say, people get so focused on you have to say please that it just kind of, I think what you started with modeling that, you and your husband both modeling that, is the very best. Insisting on it is not so great.
Yes, because then that's very true. That does change the tone, and that's what we don't want, an angry, frustrated tone. So if a kid is watching TV and you're trying to get them to pick up the clothes in their room,
you got problems.
And like you said, you can ask them, can I ask you something? Can you do me a favor? And maybe they're just so in the zone in that TV. And I know you explained taking charge and saying, I'm going to turn the TV off. Maybe not because you're taking control, you're kind of overpowering them.
Authoritarian.
Yes. So how?
Great question.
Yeah.
How do you get the chores done when the TV's on? Or how do you get them pulled away from the TV or the game on the device?
Yes.
What was your question? Was there something slightly different?
Yeah. Is it okay to say, I'm sorry, but if you don't get that done, I'm going to have to turn the TV off? Is that too authoritative, that it's going to cause more negative effects?
Right. So that's an awesome question. And there's so much there to unpack. Number one, I want to respond to one of the ways you worded it. Will you do me a favor? In my world, in my home, you putting your clothes away is not a favor to me. It's just what we do in our family. We put our own clothes away.
Yeah.
So that's one piece, like really watching how we word things. So now there's your child watching TV, or playing a game on a device. Is that happening before the chores got done, like the putting of their clothes away? And maybe the chores should have got done and then the TV or games was an after the chores get done thing. There's something to look at. There's also, sorry, like, do you have boundaries for how much time is going to be on the TV or the screen? And I hope, parents, that you do. I hope you have parameters about how many shows or how long, how many minutes a child can be on. And I encourage you to look up on the American pediatric sites about what they recommend for the actual okay amount of time for screens for children of different ages. And that's a whole nother podcast. But there's their child. They're on that watching TV, as you say. And it's time to get the laundry put away. Maybe it's time to start getting into bed. And so that has to get done before you go to bed. I don't know what the scenario is. One really helpful thing is similar to the touch. Move in, sit beside your child, kind of snuggle in, get a little bit of body contact, and get into what it is they're watching or playing for a few minutes. This was some research I did for another column about how do we get our kids to stop playing their games on their devices and not have complete and utter meltdowns. So you want to come in physically, sit gently beside them, get some body contact, get interested in what's going on the screen. And then once you've interacted a bit about what's going on the screen, you could say, how many more minutes are in this show? Do you know how close we are to the end of this show? or you can look it up. If it's on Netflix, obviously there's ways of finding out, how many minutes are left. And then you can decide, okay, at the end of this show, it's going to be time to put the laundry away, to put your clothes away, right? That kind of thing. And if the child reacts negatively to that, you can say, oh, sounds like that feels like a really big job for you right now. I'll be happy to help you for the first, 2 or 3 items and get you going. Let me know if you need my help. Or we could do that job together. And here's a job I need some help with. Do you want to share jobs? That's another really good way. We have to be careful, depending on the age of the children always, and the stage of their development. We have to be careful what our expectations are. And whether our child is hungry or tired, all those things too, right? Or thirsty. If there's resistance, maybe they need a snack. Maybe they need a glass of water. If they're tired, think about the days that you're tired and your clothes lay on the floor instead of going in the laundry hamper. Like those days happen, right? So I also really like to encourage parents to be, not overly gentle, but aware, just to be aware.
And I think the other part of that too is patience, and having patience. And like you said, maybe sit with them and engage in what they're engaged in. And
exactly.
When you said that, I was like, well, sometimes a mother is cleaning up the dishes and then has to get them in the bath, and they're thinking about all the things that they need to do because they're on a schedule or on a routine, and sometimes life is just so fast.
Yeah.
Part of that is patience and being in the moment. Maybe if you go to bed at 7:30, it's okay to get in bed at 7:35, 7:40, and not being so stuck on your routine. Having a routine, but not being so stuck on it, and being patient with the process.
Great points. So here's a couple that I want to respond to. That moving in, sitting down, getting contact and watching. It's not like you're going to sit there for 5 minutes and watch. You can have a little interaction about the show, get engaged in what they're engaged in, get into their world in 2 minutes. And it will save you the aggro of going, I said, you got to get in there and get your clothes. And then it blows up. And then you've got a fight between the two of you on your hands. And then that's going to push it a half hour. So that 2 minutes, to me, that 2 to 3 minutes, it's like an intervention. It's like getting in there before things escalate to a point where now you've got a big problem and you're going to bed and I'm not happy with you. And the child is going to cry when they go to sleep. Right. So it's that taking that moment. But the other piece I wanted to say was pre-paving. So if you've got all that to do, and again, it is going to take a little bit of your time, not very much, and it's going to cut down on the number of arguments and explosions between you. And so the peace in your household, the calmness, all surrounding, everyone at home, and the connection between you and your child are going to be amplified. So pre-paving, that's like at the dinner table saying, okay, I'm feeling like a little bit behind the gun this evening. I've got to get the dishes done. Then there's going to be bath time and stories and teeth and bed. So I'm going to need your cooperation. And if you're willing to cooperate, there could be a few minutes of TV while I'm doing the dishes. And this is how many minutes it's going to be. And then you can set that timer. Or you can say that's enough for one show, if it's a 10-minute show. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? And so you can set it all up. And when that timer goes off or when that show is done, there's got to be no problems about doing the next piece of what has to get done. And you could choose, do you feel like it might be easier to put your clothes away before you watch the show or after you watch the show? So always, if there is an area for an easy choice, that can also be empowering for the child. I think our children feel a lot like life is being done to them. We have such busy schedules now.
Yeah.
life happens to them. They don't get to choose how long they do anything. So many children don't get just to go run and play or just to play in their room for hours on end. We did when I was growing up, we sure did. And, that's a whole nother podcast, but it's like giving them the opportunity to have some say in how their evening goes can fill them with the desire to cooperate.
Our last episode was talking back, and I thought this should go after that, but really this goes before that, because when encouraging or engaging cooperation goes wrong, that's when we could get most back talk.
Yes. Well, they're good pairing. They're a good pairing. Let's put it that way.
But sometimes you'll see parents, to engage cooperation, will say, do it and I'll give you, like, bribing, and I'll give you ice cream, or I'll get you a present. And sometimes maybe that's a lie. They do it and then they get distracted. Then what are you teaching them? To do it only to get a reward, and not because it's a chore and they have to do it. And
yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, but bribery does not work. It feels like it works in the short term. It undermines the relationship. And like you said, are they only going to do it then because they get a reward? So now they've got something to work over you with. Well, what do I get tonight if I put my clothes away? No, let's not even go there. Actually, in this family, we all put our own clothes away. And that shows that you're able. You're like, when you were 1 year old, you didn't put your clothes away. But when my daughter was actually a toddler, we take clothes off in the evening, and I would put mine in my laundry hamper, and I had this cute little laundry hamper for her, and she would go put her laundry in the laundry hamper at 1.5 years old. It's just what we did. So it's not like you have to go do this chore. This is just what we do with our clothes when they're dirty. They go in the hamper. It's just like, well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
It's not like an argument. It's just like, it's just normal. We eat on the dishes. We eat with dishes. Then the dishes have to get washed. And then they have to get put away. Like, these are all things that have to happen so that we can actually eat food.
Yeah, and that goes with having the routine, right? You have your routine, and then when you have kids and as they get older, you teach them how they can be part of that routine instead of always doing it for them, because maybe
totally.
you give them a bath and then the towel has to be hung up. It doesn't stay on the floor. So then once they get older, they start hanging up their bath towel. And
and when they're little, if you can, put hooks for towels at a height where child can reach it. If it's not drying quite well enough on the hook, that's okay. You can hang it over the shower curtain or whatever, curtain rod. But the more that we can get them to do independently, they will feel prouder and happier because they're being a helpful part of the family. Really quick example before we have to go. When my oldest grandchild was a toddler, I always have a drawer with rags in it, cotton rags. Usually they're like terry towel, like old towels cut up, because I don't like using paper towels. I like to use cloth that can go in the laundry and get washed and get used 100 million times. It's awesome. So when he first spilled his first, glass of water on the table, very first time, I was like, oh, we need to go get a rag. Like, that's the other thing, is how do you react in the moment or respond in the moment? If water spills all over the table, yeah, it's a mess. But if you go, oh my goodness, okay, and you have a big reaction about it, depending on whether it's an angry sound or an upset sound or whatever, that child might now feel guilty and terrible, but it's a normal thing that happens. Water spills or milk spills or juice spills, right? So I was like, okay, come with Emma. I'll show you where the rags are. And so right away, and this is like, it's not going to hit any computers or whatever, the water. So you can take a wee bit of time. So we go to the wet rag drawer, we get the rag. I say, and I got 2. This is for you. This is for me. And we wiped up the water together. And of course, I did most of the wiping up when he's a toddler. But I'll tell you what, the next time something spilled, he says, "Oh, Amma, I need a rag. I need to go get a rag." And then after that, it just became something that he did. He just goes to get a rag and wipe up the spill. And it's not a big deal. It's just what happens in life. I think the more we can do that kind of thing, the more we can encourage this is just a normal part of being in a household, being in a family, then,
it gets easier.
It gets easier.
Not saying it will always be easy, because we all know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, totally. But there are ways to mitigate the amount of big upsets that we have. That's enough for today. Thank you for listening. We love you. And,
Thank you.
We'll be back soon.
Hey, so thanks for tuning into another episode. This one was kind of the prequel to our last episode. So I hope this helps in preventing that back talk that we spoke about last week. Here are my 3 gems. Number 1 is to try a gentle touch to get somebody's attention instead of having to repeat what you're saying 5 times or 10 times. Just try a gentle touch to connect before you're trying to give instructions or, get your kids to do what you want them to do. Number 2 is model. We are our kids' role models. So when you're speaking to them, use a certain tone of voice. Model is saying please and thank you, but saying it in a nice way. And number 3 is having a consistent routine may prevent or help in getting your kids' cooperation, because that's just what happens in your house and that's just how things go. And starting next week, our episodes will release on Tuesdays. So thank you for being here with us. We appreciate you and take care.
Thanks for being here with us in our virtual village. We'd love you to join our Facebook group at The Village Parenting Community and on Instagram at The Village Parenting Pod.
And if you enjoy our podcast, please like, subscribe, and share. Also, if you have a moment, please leave us a review. It makes a big difference for us in reaching more parents out there who may be feeling alone.
Please direct message us to connect also. We absolutely love hearing from you. And until next week, we'll be keeping it real and raw right here with you.
This podcast is sponsored by the Singing Amma's private parent coaching and workshop offerings, and also by Enlightened Designs for Crafty Mamas.